But you have to look at it. We have to look at budgeting as a long-term strategy whereby you are dictating your financial future by making certain decisions today, by delaying gratification. And you're going to look at it in depth. Get to understand what are the factors that affect our budgets. How do we utilize budgets to build our financial futures? And also, you're also going to look at budgets as wealth creation tools, how the linkage between small decisions on your budget, fixing these leakages, can have huge impacts on your portfolio in future. So that's what we're going to look at in today's session in detail. So I'll start with a quote that it's not what you earn, it's what you keep and grow, because we've seen this instance happening to many people whereby someone is earning a high income or is earning a comparatively high income or generating business revenue that's comparatively high. But since they're not able to now keep and grow whatever they're getting, when they face any financial challenges, they end up now going into debt or going into getting into a bad financial situation. So it's not about what you earn, but it's about building that discipline and now keeping and growing building that discipline, building that consistency is what develops our wealth and what's helped our budgets now become wealth builders for ourselves. So just to put ourselves into context, I usually like just posing a question to the team for us to just think about. Feel free to put it in the chat box if you want, but just it's for you to internalize. If your relationship with money or a weather condition today, what would it be? And it's been very rainy in the city. For those around Nairobi, and I'm sure many other parts of the country are receiving a lot of rain. So putting ourselves in that weather context and in that weather mindset, so where would you place yourself? Would it be sunny where you feel like you're confident and in control of your finances? Would it be partly cloudy where you feel like you're making progress but it's not clear? Would it be rainy where there's some unexpected setbacks that you face? Would it be stormy where there's a financial crisis? Or is it rainbow where there's healing and hope? Or is it icy where you're avoiding finances? So just think about it. Try to put yourself into context. And as you're going through this slides today, we'll get to see how we can move into all being in a place where we are sunny, where we feel like you're confident and in control, that you're going to use our budgets to help us at get to that point. So when we start by, it all starts with the mindset, because the mindset is what sets the pace for how you're going to move ahead. So the money mindset influences every financial decision, and most of the time this happens even without you knowing it, whereby you see small changes in your mindset affect the way you interact with money and the way you spend your money and the way you build your financial habits. So starting with one mindset challenge that you find is many people who say, I'm bad with money. And how this impacts you is that you end up avoid tracking your budget. So whereby when you write a budget, since you've already told yourself that your budget money, you don't keep that discipline, or you don't keep tracking or keep following up to see how well you're doing or how badly you're doing, because part of tracking is helping you to understand where you are and seeing how you can adjust it accordingly. So if you're not building that habit of tracking, you easily give up, because anytime any one small mistake, as opposed to using that as a lesson learned, you now use that as a reason to backslide and not stick to your budget. Then sometimes you have that mentality that more money causes problems, so you end up self-sabotaging, whereby instead of focusing on wealth accumulation, you already have the mindset that even building this more money is going to affect you, so you end up spending it all or not budgeting wisely, because you already have that preconceived notion that money is going to bring you problems. And then another thing is saying that you'll never catch up, because they say the best time to start saving should have been yesterday, but the next best time is now. Because if you don't start, you'll look at it 5 years down the line that you will have started. But if you make a decision today and say, I'll do what I can today, it's never about catching up, because everyone has their own financial plan and their own financial future. So you don't have to match your financial future to anyone else's. You just have to start wherever you are. So if you start wherever you are, 5 years down the line, you'll have saved for 5 years, as compared to you keeping on pushing it and postponing it, on procrastinating on that saving. So by changing that mindset and telling yourself that it's never about catching up, it's about building a good financial base for yourself, you will be able to start wherever you are and build something that works for you. So it's again, as we said, it's not about how much you earn, it's about how you keep and how you utilize it, about how you think. So two people with identical incomes create completely different scenarios and outcomes based on their mindset and how they draw their money or interact with their money. So that's a big pointer for us. As we're going through this slides, we get to understand the importance of changing our mindset and aligning our mindset to speak to the needs, to speak to the kind of future that we're looking to set for ourselves up financially. So I'll pose a few questions. Feel free to just either mentally or in the chat box type agree or disagree, and I'll also now type some of the mindsets that we have and speaking about the mindsets that we've talked about and how it all starts as a mindset issue. So you'll see some people say, I often feel I never have enough money, no matter how much I earn. So tying back to that point where we said it's not about how much you earn. So if you build that kind of mindset, you're building what you call a scarcity mindset, where you tell yourself it will never be enough. But it's important to know that whatever you start, however little you start with, that it makes a huge difference as compared to doing nothing. Then the other one is I avoid looking at my bank balance because it stresses me out. Now here you have what is called avoidant behavior, because if you keep avoiding your situation, you keep avoiding confronting your true financial situation, you will never be able to fix it. You'll never be able to start making the important changes or the necessary changes that you need to. You'll never be able to even build insights because you're able to know, okay, majority of my income goes here, or here is where I spend mostly on, where is where there's many leakages. You're not able to see that because you avoid it in totality. So by being able to build that, by being able to change your mindset and having that, building that discipline where you are not avoidant, you keep checking, you keep following up on your financial situation, it helps you now be more mindful and keep track of it. Then I believe people like me will always struggle financially. Here, this is what you call a limiting belief, whereby you believe this is as far as you can go. You think maybe success is limited to certain people, but you have to remember that it's accessible to everyone as long as you're breathing and you're alive. And you have all your mental capabilities. You're able to build something, and you're able to build your financial future. And you're not meant to struggle financially. So by changing our mindset, removing that limiting belief, you're able to strategize and now build your financial future that is more secure and aligns with your values and what you're looking to achieve. And then we have the growth mindset, which we now all recommend all of us should be operating in, whereby you say, I believe I can rebuild and achieve financial success no matter my starting. So it doesn't matter where you're starting from. As long as you're building that discipline and you build in a strategy and you stick by it and you keep reviewing it and checking on your progress, you're able to now continue growing and continue building upon it. No matter where you start, no matter whether you're starting at zero or you're starting at negative, you're able to now build something. So now, we come to now awareness and action, whereby we are we are changing now the limiting beliefs that we have seen, or the mindset challenges that we have seen, and now transforming them into action, into how we are able to change our mindset around money and to be able to build that capacity and that capability around our financial future. So the first thing is that mentality that budgeting is restrictive. But now you move to thinking of it as budgeting is freedom, because you are telling your money where to go, as opposed to being led by your emotions or being led by your impulses or being led by you not having proper plans. So by having a proper budget that's clearly outlined, you're able to now build that freedom because you know where your money is going, and you're able to now send it to the places that it knows is giving you the best value. And then the other limiting belief is I don't earn enough to budget. Here is where you tell yourself, I'll start saving up when I get to a certain income, when I'm able to achieve a certain level of income. But now, if you don't build these habits early enough, or you don't start building that capacity, even especially when money is tight, that's when it helps you now build that discipline and build that capacity to keep on saving and keep sticking to it. So it's important to start wherever you are, because the most important thing is that you're able to now build the discipline and keep that motivation because you're able to see your savings grow exponentially, and also now see you being in control of your finances. And then also, I'll start when I earn more. I've talked about it. Build the habit now. Focus on that, building that habit and building that capability. So some other things that now limit us when you think about budgets, because most people when they think about budgets, they think about it as it's a punishment because I am denying myself something that I could be benefiting from at the moment. I could be enjoying something right now. Or maybe it's a straitjacket, those limiting articles that people get trapped in a mental institution that limits you from movement. Sometimes people feel like a budget is that straitjacket that's limiting you from doing whatever you want to do with your money. Or you can also see that people who look at budget as something that's for people who have extra money. Where you tell yourself, I'll only start saving up when I get to this level of income, or I'll only start budgeting when I'm able to earn this much. But it's not. It's that's besides the point. You're supposed to start wherever you are, at whatever state you're in, with whatever little you can. Just start and start building that habit. And then, most importantly, a budget is not a one-time exercise. It's something that you do repeatedly. It's a living document that grows with you. It helps you now build that discipline, build that capacity, build that motivation. And even as your financial situation improves or grows, you're also now going to continue adjusting it, continue evolving it. So it's something that evolves with you and grows with you throughout your financial journey. So it's something that you have to think of as not something static, but something that continues to grow, continues to change, because even as you move on in your financial journey, sometimes your priorities change. Maybe initially when you were starting off, your priorities was on education, professional enhancement for yourself, getting certain certifications in place. But now it moves, now you're starting a family, so you start putting together the financial base for them. Or it could be now it's shifting to something such as taking care of your parents in their old age. So all of priorities shift as you change throughout. So our priorities change as we move throughout our financial journey. So it's important to keep to note that you'll keep adjusting and you'll keep tweaking and evolving it as you move along. So we'll look at the purpose pyramid of budgeting, what you call the 3 layers of purpose, whereby you are starting from the base as you build on different levels. And the base that you usually start with is the purpose of budgeting. The base purpose is the awareness, just the purpose of knowing where every shilling goes. So if I'm committing 500 shillings this week, where is it going? How much how much am I getting from it? So am I putting it somewhere where I'm getting something out of it, or am I putting something where it's not even earning the return, or is it somewhere where it's even costing me in the long run? So having that awareness of where every shilling goes is essential. And then the next step with your budget and the importance of that budget is helping you build that stability, because you're able to build your emergency fund. You're properly budgeting for some amount that goes into your emergency fund. Also with your budget, you're able to now pay off some debt. So you build that debt freedom on top of it. So on top of the awareness that you have built, you're now putting on the stability that the budget brings to you. And then the most important, which you're now focusing on in this session, is the wealth creation. Because through you being able to budget, first of all, you talked about how you know where every shilling is going. And then you have your emergency fund that is protecting you from facing financial shocks that end up affecting you and end up leading into debt. So you build that in. And also now you have built in the debt freedom, whereby you're not being tied down by debt, but in fact you're now working to build investments, to build up your savings. So through these investments, you're able to now create wealth and achieve your long-term goals. So the budget helps you build all those 3 key pillars of your financial plan that now help you achieve true wealth creation. So let's look at how budgeting impacts wealth creation. So wealth, if you look at it as a simple formula, it's basically income minus expenses multiplied by time multiplied by the investment return. Basically, the income minus expenses is how much you're saving, and that's where your budget starts, and this is where budgeting lives. whereby you're committing some amount every month or every income period. If it's a business, if it's a consultant that you're doing, however it's structured, any income that you're getting minus expensing based on how much you're budgeting, that now is within your power. You can control that, and then now you have time and the investment return, which are now mostly now either dictated by your age or by your the stage you are in your career or in your financial plan, and then now the investment return, which is not mostly dictated by the market. So look at it this way. So for example, if someone is not having a budget, so they have those leakages, some of the leakages that you'll be able to see. Maybe their income is 100,000, but they end up spending around 105,000 every month. So you can see every month they end up now sinking into debt because there's around 5,000 they did not properly plan for and ends up leading them into debt. But with intentional budgeting, about planning properly, whereby they know this is how much I can survive on in a month, this is how much I should pay myself first by it, and by paying myself I mean investing and putting it somewhere where it's working towards my future. So if someone is able to do that, that means that every month 20,000 they can commit towards building investment capital. And if you even use a very conservative rate of 10%, 80,000 per month invested at 10% annual return over 10 years, going to generate you over 4.1 billion plus. So you can see that every shilling you're able to control today becomes a soldier in your wealth army tomorrow. Because not only is the money now building the principal itself that you have put in, but also now the interest that it continues to earn, and especially when it's compounded interest. Now that continues building up and continues increasing up until you get until you get whereby your money is working for you and delivering true value for you. So that ties into us getting to understand how small changes in our budget and small habits that we build and small discipline that we tie into our financial habits is now what helps us helps us to grow our investments. It helps us to grow our wealth and help us to build wealth, long-term sustainable wealth. So let's look at the compounding effect. I mentioned a bit in the previous slide about the compounding effect and how that is impacted by time, and how by you starting as soon as possible, as soon as you can, be able to tap into the time value of money and the compounding effect which help you build money, build that wealth faster. So let's look at if someone is saving just 500 shillings a day, that's an estimated 15,000 shillings a month. If they are investing in a compound in a compounded fund that is only at 10% per annum, but is earning a compounded return. So you see, in 5 years they'll have invested 900,000, but they'll have earned a value of around 1.16 million. In 10 years, that amount, the 1.8 million that they have invested, grows to around 3.07 million shillings. And then in 20 years, what would have invested 3.6 million has already grown into 11 million. So you can see, just by committing 500 shillings a day, such a small change can help you grow over 20 years into 11.4 million, just because of tapping into the time value of money, because of making small decisions whereby you prepare a budget and use that to free up capital, commit where your money is going, and then the capital that you freed up, you put it in an investment that grows at a compounded rate that is able to now give you wealth. And that's not the true power of budgeting, because by making small changes and making more small consistent changes, you're able to now build that wealth. And the most important part for us to remember is now on the consistency part, because you've seen how it's able to now grow over time. But this growing over time requires that every day, every month, every income period, you're committed to it. You're giving how much you're supposed to give. If it's an emergency fund that you're putting money into, if you tap into it, you have to pay it back and continue building it. So it's all about now building that consistency and also tracking, seeing how are you doing. Maybe sometimes that 500 per day is too limiting. You can only do 400 per day. So you continue reviewing your budget and seeing how you can tweak it to make it work for you. Or maybe perhaps you can see you can even be able to do maybe 800 shillings a day, or you can squeeze in a bit more. So it's all about now building that budget and adjusting something that works for you and speaks to your financial goals and the financial future you're building for yourself. So now let's see how we're able to now go through those 3 ranks. We talked about starting from survival and awareness, where you're able to now know where your money is going, then building that stability, up until the point of wealth. So we start at the first stage. The first stage is survival, whereby all you're spending all your income, whereby all your income is going to expenses and you have zero left, whereby you're moving around there. The level of you can't afford to invest because all your income is going to your expenses. But now the next stage that you now move on to by building a budget and by committing yourself to a consistent budget that you consistently review, you consistently commit to, you're now building that stability because you have your income going to expenses plus some small savings that now help you cushion you against any financial challenges that may come your way. And also now, once you continue building that cushion, you get to a point whereby you have built a cushion for yourself and now you also now able to now start building for long term. And it's very essential to start building for long term investments as soon as you can because you remember now, we've talked about the impact of compounding. So in order to make your money work for you, you have to now commit funds to your investments, whereby your income is now not only going to your expenses and your savings, it's now going to your expenses, an emergency fund, and also your investments. So at this point, your money is working for you just because you have built in that discipline, you have built in that culture of now putting it into your budget and committing that percentage of your income when it's building your future. So we look at the income allocation framework. We look at some practical budgeting rules that we use, with the first one being the 50-30-20 rule. And just to note, we have many budgeting options and many budgeting frameworks. And now what is essential for us to know is that you pick one that works best for you and that aligns best with your financial plan, because not all of us not one budget can't work for everyone, because maybe someone earns a fixed income in terms of salary. Maybe someone else is getting an income plus a commission. Maybe someone else is getting just purely business revenue. So given the different types of income that you have and the different type of needs and expenses that we have, it's very essential for us to be very aware of the kind of budget that we are building and the kind of budgeting plan that we have and whether it works for us. So the first one that I'll start with is the 50-30-20 rule, whereby it's supposed to be 50% of your income is going to your needs. So this is your rent, your food, your transport, your utilities, payment for insurance, and other statutory deductions. And then now 20%. So you have 30%, where 30% now goes to your wants, and then you have 20% going to your saving and your long-term planning. So now, in this case, you see now you have your 50% going to your needs, whereby it's going to rent, food, transport, utilities, and the like. Then you now have your 20% that is going to your savings and investments. So going to your emergency fund, going to your circle savings, going to your money market fund savings, going to your savings in stocks, going to your long-term savings in land, and similar savings. And then now the 30% is now for your wants, which is also now includes giving or support, whereby you have your entertainment, hobbies, your travel as your wants, and also now you're giving or support, whereby here if it's tithe, you're contributing, if it's family support, if you're giving to charity, that amount is committed to that point. So by building this, first of all, you're able to now continue building, you're able to now cover your basis, you're able to cover your basic needs, you're able to build towards your short-term, your medium-term, and your long-term goals through your savings, and you're still also to meet your wants, whereby you're not limiting yourself, whereby you're denying yourself too much to the point you're not even able to enjoy your life. But by committing it and having a clear balanced budget, you're able to make the most of each of those bands and continue building. You're not denying yourself at any point, whereby you're getting to enjoy your wants does not deny you from building your savings. Or you're building your savings does not deny you from covering your needs. And you covering your needs does not stop you from giving or supporting. So by using that framework, it's essential for us to put it into practice. The figures might vary based on your specific situation, based on your income levels and your expenses levels. But that's the average figure that you typically look at. And the most important part is now the tracking and the reviewing. Just ensure that you're reviewing, checking whether you're making progress, and whenever you need to make an adjustment, you make the necessary adjustment. So when we talk about the giving part, there's an important part that I'm sure most of us have been affected by in one way or the other, especially in an African context, whereby we have this thing called black tax, and it's a very important aspect because a huge part of our income will end up going to cover for black tax. And as with anything else, the same way you're very vigilant about your expenses, that's something else that you need to be very aware about and make sure that we properly incorporate it to our financial plan. So it's important to note that in as much as you want to support family and you want to ensure that everyone else is okay, you have to remember that you cannot support without you cannot sacrifice your future in order to support your family. You have to balance both. And many of us end up carrying that weight of supporting siblings, parents, or cousins. And most of us are doing it with love. We're doing it out of the kindness of our hearts and out of pure love. But if it's not properly managed, if it's not properly planned and put for in your budget, it can lead you to delaying your own financial goals, whereby money that you had planned to do something else, to do something that can build your financial future, to set aside for investments, or to set aside to build yourself up, you end up now committing to someone else's needs, or to someone else's to satisfy someone else's needs, as opposed to catering for yourself first. Then sometimes it can even end up creating hidden resentment over time because you feel like you've denied yourself progress in order to assist others, but either they are not aware of that, or they're not reciprocating it in the way that you'd like them to reciprocate, or that you don't have the appreciation that perhaps you'd like. So by sacrificing your own financial future to support them, you might end up now building that hidden resentment, which ends up even straining relationships. And then it can keep entire families in survival mode indefinitely. So if the breadwinner is always spending and is always spreading out however much they get just to keep everyone afloat, so if they will always be in that survival mode for everyone. So always depending on this one person who is able to even build a good financial future for themselves because everyone is depending on them. So it will be consistently in that state of survival mode. So how do you build a sustainable approach towards black tax? So the first thing to do is to start by budgeting a specific amount for family support. So whereby you tell yourself only a certain percentage of my income is going to go to support black tax. So it can be a percentage figure, it can be a fixed amount that you say this is how much I'm supporting based on their need and also based on my ability. And whenever you go beyond that point, there's no more addition, so there's no more further commitment, because anything that you're taking away from anything that you're giving, and in addition to that, you're taking away from yourself, or you're denying another part of yourself that will be working towards your future, or that will be building your future. So it's very important to now have a specific budget and set that aside. And then communicate boundaries with love and clarity. Of course, anyone who truly loves you and values you will also want you to see you prosper and understand the importance of you building a budget and have you securing your financial future. Because in the long run, it's also to their benefit if you are properly financially secured. So it's important to also now communicate and tell them those limits that whenever we cross this threshold, this is how much I'm able to give. Beyond that, I am not able to assist. This is how much I can give in a month, because the rest of it is tied up. And then encourage self-reliance where possible. For some people, perhaps they could be able to fend for themselves, but maybe they depend on you because they know you can provide. But if they're in a position where they can rely on themselves, or you can help them build something that to a point where they can be self-reliant, it's essential to focus on that, because that now takes away the full burden from you. You're not even able to now commit however much you are committing to them to now towards your investment and towards building your own financial future. And then another thing is invest in family income generating projects rather than endless handouts. I'm sure we're all aware of the quote that says, give a man a fish, you will feed him for a day, but teach a man how to fish, but you have fed him for a lifetime. So it's the same approach applies, whereby you encourage now your family and your friends or people who are supporting your dependents. If you're able to help support them through investing in an income generating project rather than direct handouts, this not only helps them now build that self-reliance, but it also now moves from a point whereby you feel like you're just supporting people, but in fact you're now investing in something that you're also now going to build a financial future for you. So in the instances that you can be able to now invest directly in a income generating project supposed to handouts, also now consider building that because that now helps support everyone involved and is beneficial to everyone involved. So let's look at just some examples. A case study of a lady called Maria who had a budget or who has not built a budget. So we're helping her build a budget. So her monthly income, net income is around 250,000 with her expenses whereby she spends everything. By the end of the month, she spent every single coin she's earned and she's in credit card debt around 100,000 at very high interest of around 90%. She has zero savings and there's no emergency fund. So now, even by just a snapshot into that, you're able to see whereby there's many areas whereby we can now start making changes to this budget. For example, you can see these areas that perhaps we can be able to cut because she's not supposed to be living beyond her means by spending everything by the end of the month. She's supposed to be building an emergency fund. So if you're Marty in the situation, how would you do that? What would you prioritize to give into the emergency fund? Look into what budget methods are applicable for her. Perhaps she can commit certain percentages to expenses and send the rest into long-term savings, send the rest into giving and support, things like that. And now how to prioritize high interest debt. We're seeing she's carrying a very high interest loan at around 19% interest. So we'll be able to now see how we can make some tweaks and be able to now adjust that and make some money so that she can be able to recuperate and give herself an emergency fund and herself a strong financial future. So with Marina's solution, you can start with a simple approach that you can try to use and help her. So looking at her current expenses, you can see that around 60,000 shillings is committed to eating out or the entertainment. Sometimes she goes shopping and will spend around 40,000 on shopping. And then sometimes she will use an Uber which totals to around 25,000. So now we start looking at these leakages and places that you can change. So for instance, you can say reduce the entertainment budget to 30,000 whereby she's not denying herself fully, but she's able to still now manage whereby she tells herself this is as much as I can do. So any activities I'm doing should be within that budget. Similarly, when it comes to shopping, maybe have a budget for the things that she's supposed to buy. Or even if she typically buys on impulse, have an allocated amount for that she can't go beyond. So for example, if she says she's now going to commit not only 40,000, she's now going to cut that to around 15,000. She's now able to commit 25,000 into savings. And then for transport, perhaps she utilizes her Uber going everywhere, whereby now she's spending around 25,000. But if she can cut that down and save around 10,000, you can see with slight changes, she's able to save up to 65,000 that she can now start saving up towards an emergency fund. She can save it up towards debt repayment where she's clearing some of her credit card debts to avoid carrying that heavy interest. And then she can even start building up some funds for maybe a vacation or maybe a major purchase that she's planning to make. So through small tweaks, you're able to see how it's very easy to now make changes into her financial situation because of leakages she could have not noticed if she was not budgeting. So this all ties to the importance of budgeting and being able to now track and know where your money is going, know where every shilling is committed and how much it's doing for you. And if you're committing to something that you can cut down on, you can always reduce that and use it to and send that money to somewhere where it can generate you a much higher return and a better return for yourself and help you build your financial future. So let's look at some financial leakages. We've seen, for example, in Maria's instance, whereby she's been able to make some changes on her budget through seeing some leakages. Let's look at some leakages that perhaps some of us might have that might go unnoticed. So the first one is maybe you go for your coffee or your breakfast, you buy yourself a fancy coffee every morning, something like that. Something as small as 300 shillings, 350 shillings can add up to around 10,000 per month. And in a year, that's going to be around 126,000. through making just small leakages, small plugs to those leakages. Maybe you can decide to either make the coffee yourself at home or do something or find another cheaper option, something like that. You're able to make small tweaks that can help you plug that leakage. Then you can also see, for example, you choose to, whenever you're at the office, you get your lunch delivered as opposed to doing a packed lunch. If it costs you, let's say, an average of 500 shillings for lunch, you can see that in a month you're able to save up to 15,000 shillings just by small changes to your lifestyle. And that ends up to around 108,000 in a year that you're able to commit towards saving for your future plans, saving for long-term investments. Then sometimes you have some unused subscriptions. Maybe you have a premium version of the streaming channels that you have. Sometimes people have 3, 4 streaming channels that perhaps they're not even utilizing them all. Maybe even your internet subscription or some other subscription that you have is a package that you're not fully utilizing. You can downgrade without much impact to yourself. So that's something that you can also look at. If you're able to save even 3,000 per month, that means you're having around 36,000 per year saved up. And then also the impulse supermarket buys, just something tiny, buying something that was not in your budget that you hadn't planned for. Even something as little as 200 shillings a day can total up to around 72,000 shillings a year if you're not properly budgeting and planning for it. And then also something that tends to go under the radar and people don't notice is something such as betting or sports gambling, where someone is saying maybe they're betting for fun on their favorite sports team, but that's 100 shillings even. As little as that, you're denying yourself around 36,000 shillings per year that could have been committed to something else. So assuming someone is making all these fixes to their leakages, you seem to be able to free up around 450,000. That's almost 500,000 shillings a year just through small tweaks in your lifestyle and the way they're living. But all this now ties into budgeting again. The importance of budgeting, because it's only through budgeting that you're able to know where this money is going, where you have leakages that you can fix, where you have areas that you can make some sacrifices. But as long as you're looking towards saving for your future, you're looking towards building your future. So you don't mind making some small sacrifices for now for the delayed gratification that will be much more valuable in the end. So it's very essential that we look at your budget, look at just track for 1 month as a starting point. Track for 1 month, get to understand where is your money going, and through that you're able to now build a more robust budget. And towards the end of the session, I'll show you how we use some of our tools at Switch to help you work on your budget and help you plug in some of these leakages. So another thing that you now need to think about when it comes to budgeting, it's even about fixing leakages when it comes to your spending, even in making things such as purchases. Small daily purchases that perhaps you think don't add up, but you notice they add up when it comes to the long run. So a good example we like to use is looking at tea bags, for example. So you want 100 tea bags. So there's different types. There's the ones that are tagged and tagged, there's enveloped and tagged, all packaged in different ways, but it's all 100 tea bags. You'll see that the price varies very significantly by almost around 80 shillings for a package of 100 tea bags. And the difference is very minor. So it's just that one is individually wrapped, but one is where you just all of them are in one same package. But the utility is still the same. As you're making the tea, perhaps you won't even notice a difference if you're using an individual tagged tea bag versus a untagged tea bag. But when you add this up, when you do this for all the products that you utilize in your household on a daily basis, and you add that up over time, all these small changes end up adding up. So this is not just to push you to focus on one item, but just think about how small changes every day that you're making in your lifestyle and in your budget and in your daily planning can help you get to a proper financial situation or help you build your financial situation much more. But what are some practical strategies that you can apply when it comes to plugging some of the leaks that we might face in our financial situations on a day-to-day? So one of the leakage types that you'll see is mindless spending, whereby you spend without thinking about it, and later is when you start feeling the buyer's remorse, or you start feeling the remorse because of how much you've overspent. So to avoid that, you can implement what you call the 24-hour rule, where you tell yourself before you make any non-essential purchases, you allow yourself 24 hours to truly think about it and justify that purchase. Justifying it down to where is this money going to come from? What does it mean you deny yourself in order to be able to achieve or to afford this? So think about it keenly and thoroughly. Because sometimes it's just an impulse, because maybe you're feeling emotional, or maybe you're in a certain situation, a mental state, so you just want to spend to reward yourself or to treat yourself or to make yourself feel better. Then another thing we have is a subscription creep, whereby some of us have many subscriptions, where you have subscription for your Netflix, for Spotify, for other tools, for many other, for YouTube, for many other channels that perhaps you don't utilize as often as you ideally would have wanted to, or maybe you can live without. Maybe there's more affordable options. So audit all your subscriptions quarterly, cancel unused ones, and if you can downgrade, if possible, do that. Then food waste or food expenses on food. So you plan for your meals, shop with a list so that you're not overstocking ingredients that end up going bad. And if possible, pack your lunch or have plan your meals whereby you're able to now eat food from home as opposed to having to purchase food from outside, because that small changes end up making huge impact. Then also transport inefficiency. If you're able to now carpool with a neighbor perhaps, or you're able to now carpool with someone who is taking kids to school, you live in the same neighborhood, your kid goes to the same area, perhaps not all of you need to individually drive your kids to that school, or perhaps not all of you need to get individually into your car that you're going to different areas. You can utilize that. You can utilize that carpool option to save up on some money. And also another thing, you can use matatus for some trips. Use public transport where you can, because it's going to help you save some small costs, which in the long run end up adding up. Then also now plan your errands together. So if you have errands structured around different pieces, plan them together whereby you're not going back and forth. You're able to now do them all in one day and minimize on fuel costs. And then impulse shopping, and link cards from shopping apps, and use cash for discretionary purchases, because that's one thing that ends up now being a huge contributor to overspending, whereby your virtual cards are on your shopping apps, whereby you don't even have to think about it when you're making a purchase. It's automatic. It's as simple as a click of a button. But now, by you putting in that friction whereby you have to spend cash in order to make a purchase, that is going to now shift your mindset, whereby it feels more tangible when you're utilizing cash, or when you're utilizing, or when you have to follow a whole process to access your money so that you're able to now make a purchase with it. That makes you now think more about it when you're making any purchase. And then avoid the justice once mentality. That's a mentality that many people end up falling into. You tell yourself, oh, justice once is not going to happen again. It's just by next month I'll be good. I'll have found my footing. But now, if you don't do that, you end up now, if you keep in that mentality, you end up now overspending every month, and you end up now getting into this habit whereby you keep overspending, or you keep making bad financial decisions without any recourse. So you cure for this is track every decision for 30 days. So commit to a certain period and tell yourself, for the next 30 days, I'm going to track all my spending. And what this helps you with is you're able to now be aware of where your money is going. And it kills that impulse, because you're able to see, okay, maybe sometimes I end up overspending because I have this habit, or maybe I follow this route, or maybe I do this and this. So by having that awareness, you know, kill that impulse, and you're more alert when you're making certain decisions. So as a starting point, what I'd recommend is for the next 1 week, just write down everything you spend. Note it down, however small, even something as small as transactional cost, just note it down. And by the end of the week, when you start reviewing it, you'll be able to see all the places in which you have leaks in your spending, whereby your finances have go to places perhaps that you didn't anticipate that you'd be spending as much on. So how do you build a sustainable financial system? You build a financial sustainable system by three key pillars. First key pillar is now protection, whereby you're protecting yourself from getting into a worse financial situation. You're putting in that that safety net for yourself. And this typically happens through your emergency fund. So your emergency fund is what will protect you when you get into a situation whereby you're short on funds or your financial, your income runs out and you need to continue sustaining yourself. So that's where the emergency fund comes in. Insurance, there's very many facets of insurance, from medical to motor vehicle and many other types of insurance. So all these are now protecting you from a financial distress, whereby if something happens, if maybe you've been hospitalized or something happens or you're in an accident, you don't end up tapping into your savings to pay for that. You have something that caters for the same. And then now a will or a trust. This is now what protects your investments in your future, past when you're gone. How your dependents going to be protected once you're gone? Are you putting in that financial safety net for them? Then the other thing that you need to look at is now on the growth part of it. So you've put down your savings. Where are your savings going to? Where are you investing them? Are they maximizing the value that you're obtaining out of them? Is there a place perhaps that you could commit that could give you much more value? So it's essential to now look at that. Look at your retirement. So once you stop earning an income, how is your retirement going to look like? Or are you protected when it comes to your medical needs when you're retired? Do you have a home that you'll be living in? Do you have an income that will be able to sustain you, or somewhere where you could generate an income that will keep you going up until up until your last days? And then also now on the property, do you have do you have a property asset both for yourself, for your home or where you're going to be living, and also now something that is going to be able as a store of value that's able to now build that capital acquisition over time? Do you have that in place? So that's another very strong pillar that you need to consider. And then the most important one is also now the freedom, because in us building all these pillars, you're looking to seek that freedom that is going to come through financial wellness. You're looking to now be free from debt, build that debt freedom, building a passive income that allows you to continue covering your expenses even when you're not able to work. And also your time freedom, whereby you don't have to sacrifice every waking minutes of your life to getting an income. You're able to now building that passive income that allows you now that time freedom, whereby you're able to now commit your time to things that now truly mean the most to you, truly bring you value. So by budgeting, this is the foundation that makes all these three pillars possible. We have seen the importance of now committing to, first of all, understanding where your money is going, and now committing to plugging in those leakages. By now you being able to do that, it's the only way you're now able to build in the protection pillar of your financial system, the growth pillar of your financial system, as well as in the long run now building that freedom aspect of it. So it's important that start by getting a consistent budget that you stick to, and that helps you now, and that you're able to now follow through, which now clearly you're able to consistently follow up with, ensure that you're getting the full value out of it. And if there's any places that you're able to change, make the requisite changes. So we talked about the emergency fund, and we've seen the importance of the emergency fund because it's very essential to have a fallback plan, or something that you can now tap into when, for example, your income runs out, or when you stop generating an income, or something happens to you and you're not able to generate an income as you would, or maybe you have an emergency that has happened. So the emergency fund, this is where you're now able to generate that, you're now able to tap into to protect yourself. This is what you call the first important financial safety net. And the rule of thumb for an emergency fund, we talk about having 3 to 6 months of the essential expenses saved. So for example, if my monthly expenses are around 50,000, that means I need to have between 150,000 to 300,000 saved up in an emergency fund. That way it means if, for example, I lose my job, I have 3 to 6 months cover to allow me to look for a job as I'm as I'm generating as I'm living off, as I'm covering my expenses and living off that emergency fund. In the same way, if my monthly expenses are around 200,000, it means I have to save up between 600,000 and 1.2 million in an emergency fund. And now, an important thing about an emergency fund, you have to think about it this way. It has to be somewhere where you can access it, but it's not too easily accessible. So first thing, it shouldn't be the same account as your normal spending account, or your main bank account, because that way you won't have that separation from it. You'll always be tapping into it, even when you don't need it. And then also, it should be somewhere where it's generating something for you, because as you can see, for example, if I'm saving up that 600,000, for instance, if I have to have that 600,000, by having it in an account where it's not generating anything, I am losing value, because over the long run, the inflation aspect of it means that I can only I'm only able to get less and less value out of it. But by me investing it somewhere where I'm able to earn a moderate amount of interest, for example, such as in a money market fund, I'm able to access it within a number of days. So I'm not tied up whereby I'm having to liquidate assets at losses. So I'm able to generate something from it. That means it's if I'm putting it in some in an investment such as a money market fund or similar investment or call deposits or somewhere where it's generating a fair return, I'm able to in a few number of days, it helps now protect you from getting into a debt trap. Because, for example, one car repair, if you don't have an emergency fund, means that you either have to get into credit card debt or go into mobile loans with at a very high interest rate, as a exorbitant interest rate, as opposed to just spending from your emergency fund and then in a situation where you can pay it back, pay it back. So it's very important for us to truly understand the essence of the emergency fund and to ensure that all of us have one in place that you're consistently feeding into and ensuring that we are fully covered. Second priority is now on your debt management, whereby it is very important that you ensure that you pay off, that you have a system for managing your debt. And I'll look at it towards the end of the session, whereby you have different ways in which you can cover your debts. You can either start by paying some of the high interest rates first, whereby you're now lowering the amount of interest that you pay in total, or maybe perhaps you can use a snowball method, whereby you're paying the smallest balance first in order to now build in that momentum, building the psychological win. So there's many options available for you, but it's also very important that you understand debt management as a pillar, as a priority towards financial security, because it's only by clearing all your bad debts and only having good debts, because good debts are the ones that are now generating something for you, whereby it's a mortgage whereby an asset is appreciating, or it's a business loan where there's an income that's coming, that it's generating, or it's a student loan where there's a guaranteed future earning, where it's something that you're investing in something that's going to build up on itself, and it's not just for luxury or for consumption. And the third and the most important step is now to automate it, because automation is the most important part. Because it's very easy to succumb to tell yourself that you'll be pushed by your willpower, but willpower is not foolproof. Sometimes you end up now succumbing to your own desires or your own wants. And how you now counter that is by automating, by having standing orders, whereby if my income comes in, a certain percentage is already removed without even me having to think about it. It's already automated. This now ensures that you always have money that is going towards your investment and is going towards your savings. And it's important to remember that you'll never find money to invest. You have to create it through intention. So by us building in proper budgeting habits and by building a discipline of budgeting and reviewing our budgets and ensuring that we utilize that for to build up our savings, which now feed into our investments, we're able to now build our financial success and build a stable financial future for ourselves. So as I wrap up, I would just like to talk a bit about our prosperity dashboard, which I'd encourage you all to just feel free to interact with if you haven't through our website. So the prosperity dashboard basically helps us with some of the things that we've talked about here. For example, when it comes to budgeting, we have our budget planning tool that now helps you now put in all your expenses and all your incomes. For example, this is a screenshot from the platform where you're able to now put in your expenses, put in all your total income, and then you're now able to see the balance, and you're able to now see some of the places where you're able to now make some tweaks or make some plug some leakages that you've talked about that will help you now build a more robust budget, or it enables you to keep reviewing month on month, see any progress that you're making, see any money that you can free up to invest in other places. So by utilizing this tool, you're able to now build in some of those habits we've talked about and building that momentum towards utilizing your budget and your savings to build long-term financial wealth. So as I wrap up, I'd just like to mention some key takeaways that I'd like all of us to implement as our takeaway from this session. Is first thing, you start by writing down all your income sources. Track every expense that you're spending for the next 7 days, because that's going to help you now see where your money is going and see how you can plug in some leakages. Then from all these expenses, you categorize them. What are needs, what are wants, what are savings, areas that you can now save. You can now plug in some leakages, identify the 3 leakages to plug in immediately, and then you set yourself a savings target, even as small as you can, even 500 a month. We'll say the most important part is starting where you are. So you set yourself a savings target and you start saving up. Then you open a separate savings or investment account. You're now going to be committing that savings to. And then you set up an auto transfer on payday or whenever your income comes through, whereby it goes there automatically without even having to think about it. And then also, as I said, recommend you log into our prosperity dashboard, interact with it, complete your budget, because that's going to help you now be able to see where all your money goes, and now you're able to now build in that disc, you're able to track and see consistently where your money goes and reassess and strategies accordingly. And then schedule a monthly money date with yourself. Schedule a date whereby you sit down and review your finances, any progress you've made into the month. How are you doing? Do you need to make any? And by following this process, you'll be able to now build yourself a proper financial future, and slowly your budget is now going to be able to now help you build that wealth over time. So I think I'd like to stop there. I think I'll open the floor for any questions, any clarifications that you might want. I'm happy to assist. Sorry we've run a bit overboard, but just happy to take any questions and any comments and further questions you might want.
Thank you so much, Bryan, for that insightful session, and thank you to everyone who joined us today. If there are no questions, I would like to give at least one takeaway from today. I have learned that a budget is not the end goal, it is a starting point. So because once you structure your income, the next question becomes, what is your long-term plan? And more specifically, I invite you to our next Prosperity Circle session, which is going to be on the question, do you actually have a retirement plan, and or are you relying on income alone? So we will also learn on where NSSF fits into a retirement plan, and we boldly invite you to the session. It's going to be on the 30th of April from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And for this session, we'll be charging just 1,500 Kenya shillings. And I would be really, really glad to see all of you take into participation of this session. So don't stop budgeting and move from managing money to planning your future with our great dashboard. We look forward to seeing you in the next session and have a lovely evening.